Hello Ratbags, it's Jade Plays Games, welcome to a special Ark video. It's been nearly 9 months since Ark Survival Evolved launched out of early access. It's gone a long way, the game's undergone massive changes and it's had so much content added to it during the early access period and actually afterwards. But today's video we're going to be talking about the missing features, the missing content. We're not going to try and rag on it too much, but there is a hell of a lot of content that the developers talked about, spoke about and outright promised that would come to the game and we still haven't seen. So let's go through all the things that are missing in Ark Survival Evolved. Spend enough time on the forums and you'll find a plethora of information about the missing items and re-jogging my memory over all the news I've covered over the last 2 years in Ark Survival Evolved. We've mentioned this stuff time and time again as we've gone through patch notes, as we looked into things that Ark said they were going to be doing, Wildcard would implement into the main game. And I'm not just talking about the upcoming features section on the Ark Wiki, which is mostly out of date now. There's a bunch of that stuff that's been added in and just no one's updated it in a long time. They're quite small fry as well in terms of the grand scope of Ark Survival Evolved, in terms of the player feedback and in terms of the ideas that developers said they would do and answered questions. A lot of the stuff in the upcoming features just isn't really that big a deal. There is much bigger things that the devs did say they would implement in the game, and let's go and examine that exactly the biggest ones first. Okay, starting off with something a little bit fresh, the TLC updates. If you don't know what the TLC updates did, they reskinned some of the creatures in Ark Survival Evolved. They gave many of the creatures brand new abilities. We've had 2 TLC updates since Christmas that really gave lots of freshness to some of the creatures and also added a bunch of other quality of life improvements. Particularly the first TLC update, it was definitely the most packed. It had creative mode in it enabled, so it made it really super easy to spawn stuff in on console and a bunch of other stuff. However though, the developers did say they would carry on working on TLC, and the TLC updates were meant to have come before Christmas. They were delayed and delayed because of the problems they had with Aberration being late and not on time, and so TLC got pushed back. But if you're thinking you're going to be seeing another TLC update, think again. The last 2 will probably be the last we'll actually get. The developers have said they'll try and look at it after the last piece of DLC comes out, Extinction. As you can see from this post, this is way back in 2015 when the game had only just come out. They already had ideas about implementing better creatures. So it's fantastic they finally got around to doing it. But initially, they had hoped to get this done before full release of the game. It just kept getting pushed back and pushed back. And as you can see from the question, the Stego and the Thermometer still haven't made it to a TLC pass. Now, it's not the most important thing going with some of these creatures. Do we really need a souped up Thermometer? Probably not. However, it would be nice that all the early game creatures got some sort of rebuff or revamp, and particularly some of the character models. Eventually a game has got to stop getting content. Eventually that game is going to not be as popular and the developers can't actually warrant putting content into the game if no one's playing it. However, 13 million people now own copies of Ark Survival Evolved across Xbox One, PS4 and PC. There are still millions of people playing it every single month. That is a lot of players that you could still give lots of good stuff like reskins and like the TLC revamps. And it's a shame that DLC, paid DLC, came before the TLC. In my eyes that was a big mistake, and I think it contributed a lot to some negativity around Wildcard and Ark Survival Evolved, the fact that they put DLC before actual real content for the real fans. So, the chances of seeing any more TLC? Not likely. Once the DLC Extinction comes out in the summertime, that is going to be it for the main game. I really can't see them putting any more time into Ark Survival Evolved. They'll be definitely looking onto new projects and new things. And speaking of DLC, we're going to quickly move on to Extinction, the final DLC for Ark Survival Evolved. When they launched the Season Pass during the start and the launch of the full game, they said there would be 3 pieces of DLC and that the 3rd one would come out at some point next spring. Well, spring has come and it's nearly gone. We're almost close to summer and we've heard nothing. There's been no rumours, there's been no press reveals. With E3 coming up, I fully expect to see some sort of launch trailer for the brand new DLC. They have to start hyping it up eventually, and they're usually very good at that. In fact, that's been a big long-term problem with Ark and Wildcard, hyping stuff up and then all too frequently being late or there being problems with what they're hyping. So let's hope that Extinction does start making it and we start getting news about the brand new DLC, because it is meant to have come out this spring. And boy oh boy does Ark need some injection of life. There are lots and lots of reports and lots of negativity saying that the game is dying, people aren't playing it as much. And it is true, it has dropped off. Even on PC lately in the last month or 6 weeks, player numbers have started to go down, which is normal for a game that's been out for so long. However, I do think some of that is down to the way the game's been developed and some of the DLC plans were announced. With no new content for a good stretch of time, it really does make people go and play other games. And with hot properties like Conan Exiles about, Ark really need to step up the game and make sure the final DLC, Extinction, really outdoes all the previous ones. Aberration was good, but in my opinion, I thought it was way too small and it just didn't offer great scope for value for what it really was. So I'm really hopeful that Extinction puts right all the problems I had with Aberration and some of the problems I've always had with the DLC that Ark has been bringing out. Now, probably moving on to the most requested one since they announced that it could possibly come to the full game, Structures Plus. If you don't know what Structures Plus is, it was a mod put onto the PC version of Ark and it is one of the most popular mods out there. It does some really simple basic things with building. It also adds a bunch of other unique things to the game that really make life just easier, and you can do so much with the building techniques. You can have really nice straight walls, everything becomes flush. It's just a really super useful thing. Now, way back before launch, they suggested that they would look into bringing that as part of the full main game. Tentatively, when they announced it, they said they were looking into the prospect of that when it launched. Fast forward, when they were hyping up Aberration at TwitchCon, they announced that S Plus would also be looked at still, but it would be a bit of a way away. Not before Christmas, certainly. It was something they were talking about with the mod creator to bring it to the full game. And when I say the full game, that obviously means Xbox One and PS4, which is obviously where this is most important. PC, you can just go ahead and download the mods, but it would be amazing to have some of these features. Now, the biggest issue was lots of this stuff wasn't very good for official networks. You can't have clipping into structures, which is one of the main features of Structures Plus, on a official server. It will just cause too many problems. And there are lots more stuff like that with S Plus that needed to be nerfed or taken out before it could be rolled out. Now, it's been 5 months, we're now into May, and there's been absolutely no word about S Plus. That is a hell of a long time not to mention anything about something you tentatively spoke about. Now, they didn't promise, they didn't say they were definitely bringing it to the game, but when you announce it as a sweetener because you're announcing a delay, which is what they did, they announced at TwitchCon, they showed Aberration off, but they also said they were going to be delaying the Aberration DLC, but oh, by the way, hold on, Structures Plus may be coming. It was definitely something to keep us sweet, to keep us happy because of the bad news about Aberration. But we've still not had anything go on. There is no information about this coming to the full game, and it's really disappointing. I think it's probably one of the most hyped up things people want to see, alongside all the other mods, but that is a different story altogether, and I've spoken at length why you're never going to see all the PC mods on Xbox One or PS4. It must be super hard to implement something like this for the whole game, thinking logistically, thinking about all the calculations with every single piece. Modders generally create something out of fun, out of a hobby, out of the will to be able to show they can do something, but it's not always clean and clear. Sometimes there's lots of back-end problems and that can cause issues with the main game. So I know it's a hard task, but at least give us a roadmap, wildcards. Tell us what's going on in your head about what some of the plans are that you've mentioned in the past. We're going to be going over the sponsored mods later on, but I still want to go through the more important things that you guys constantly tell me you want to see in the game. And one of them things is the adjustment to flyers. Way back when the flyer nerf was implemented, it upset a bunch of people. Although personally I agreed with the flyer nerf because it made you rely on other creatures and not just the free flying big ones like the Quetzal, Argy and Pteranodon. It really balanced the game out and made you use the 100 or so other creatures. Lots of people didn't like it though, so the ability to change and do what you want on your private server or your single player world was amazing, and they announced this ages ago during a Q&A digest. They said they would implement it and put a setting where you could change whether or not you could put speed into your creatures. Now you can do this on rented servers. You can actually change the speed of all creatures, but not specific ones. You can't just buff flyers. If you buff the speed of a creature, it happens to every single creature in the game. They definitely have done their best in terms of doing other things with making sure your servers run the way you want them to be. The no clip was a really good addition, which meant you could just put foundation pieces and stuff like that into walls. That made building so much easier and made it more creative what you could do. But I want to see more server settings like this. Start delivering on some of the things you've promised in terms of these settings. How hard is it? Let us know how hard it is to implement this back in. In my eyes, it surely is just a case of setting a few code lines. If you removed it, it must be easier just to put it back in. But that could be me just talking rubbish. I'm not a modder, I'm not a games developer, but if you've had it in the game before, it can't be that hard to put it back in there and give us the option to change it. Now, I'm not talking about official servers, I'm just talking about private servers or your single player world. The classic Flier mod was one of the most downloaded mods Ark had ever had. Within a couple of days it had hundreds of thousands of people download it. That's how unhappy people were with the nerf of Fliers. So it'd be a real shame if they don't implement something where we can change it and adjust it to how we want. Okay, moving on to some other stuff now. Do you remember Scorched Earth, the DLC? Did you enjoy it? I found it was really hard at first, but when you got into it, you could enjoy lots of the brand new items and engrams, and it was really cool during early access to get hold of something brand new and fresh, and particularly get it on Xbox where we didn't have enough mods. There weren't no mods obviously on console, so it was really nice that we got it. There wasn't an end scene to Scorched Earth. Now, there was in Aberration, there's an end cutscene, there's an end cutscene at the end of the main game, and the wildcard devs consider Scorched Earth canon. Scorched Earth and Aberration is the only official DLC that's part of their continuing story through the arcs. You do have Ragnarok and a centre map, but technically they're not canon, so they don't need any sort of end game or end game credits. It's only because the modders put stuff like boss fights in it, we had some really good content. The wildcard devs did say they were going to add an end game sequence to Scorched Earth. They said they wanted it to carry on a bookender experience for all the DLCs, and they also added tech engrams. They were going to add a special set of engrams, particularly the Wyvern tech saddle, and we've heard nothing about that in such a long time. It was asked ages and ages ago, and they've repeatedly said it a few times that they would be looking at bringing in a sort of end game credit scene for Scorched Earth. Now, is it really important? The DLC's been out over 2 years nearly. Well, it'll be 2 years come sort of July, August, and then that's going to be a big long time not to have an end scene for something. But for people who are brand new to Ark, and because Ark is such a grind and getting through all the DLCs and all the whole game could take you absolutely 6 months, maybe even a year, depending on how much you play, it could be nice to see that actually happen, or at least tell us it's not happening. I think more important, people would like to see the actual Wyvern tech saddle. That is probably something people really want to see. I broke this to you guys, and loads of other YouTubers have covered it in detail, saying that it is in the dev kit. So the development kit for Ark Survival Evolved has had a Wyvern tech saddle for the longest of times. They said they would bring it in the future. Now, I presumed that would be as part of Scorched Earth, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's going to be part of Extinction. Maybe that is why they're going to be holding off. They want to implement it. Maybe there's going to be lots of Wyverns available on the Extinction map. I really hope not. I think it perfectly fits Scorched Earth. It was the full experience of getting that Wyvern was so hard, and it was such a challenge. It was really worth it doing that, and if you could do that and then complete the boss fight and defeat the Manticore, I think the Wyvern saddle is the perfect reward for doing that boss fight. Also, overall, Scorched Earth hasn't been getting maybe enough love as it could have got. When they launched it, they said they were going to support it with future content, and they would definitely keep supporting it. Now, apart from some bug fixes and issues, the only real addition we have had has been the Phoenix. Now, the Phoenix was good. It was a great addition to it. It really hyped things up just before launch. People were excited to see it in the game, but it's not hardly the most useful creature, and I don't think it really has a place in the wider world of Ark at the moment. They didn't add any more items to the game, they didn't add any more creatures, and they didn't add any more caves, and I think that's probably one of the things that lacking the most on Scorched Earth is the stuff to do. Like, other than getting a Wyvern, which is pretty much the whole DLC, there's not a lot to explore. There's only 2 or 3 caves with the artifacts in them. I think they could have done a bit more underground. They could have added more underground ruins. Scorched Earth has got some of the best ruins in the game. I absolutely love running around the desert and finding all these tiny little buildings from past survivors. I would love to see more of that added to the game, expand on the desert. You know, some of this is all pipe dreams. You can't always just keep working on stuff, but definitely it was something I wanted to see. Now, a little while ago, I spoke about the fact that Wildcard had admitted they'd overhyped stuff. They'd done this post, well, it was on Reddit. It's not been publicly put on the forum site. They haven't put it on Twitter because they're not necessarily going to shout out the fact that they've maybe under-delivered or they can't keep their promises. But it was still a step in the right direction from the community manager saying that they overhype stuff sometimes and it's always hard when they can't deliver it. And there's other things that become priorities and it's just a real shame. Now, lots of the things I could mention were said during early access, and I will defend the fact that during early access, when you're making a game, you can't always put in everything you dream of. There must be limitations. You must come across problems and issues that you didn't expect, and so some things do get put on the back burner. I totally accept that, and I totally understand that lots of the things I'm showing you today, and I'll be talking about in a minute with some of the smaller stuff, we'll never see in the game, and that's okay because it was said during early access, and it's just a question of time and input, and the amount of effort that would go into doing that is too much. However, there's lots of things they've said out of early access. There's lots of things they've categorically stated would come to the game. It wasn't just a case of they're trying to do that or they're going to work on it. They gave us dates, they gave us times, and none of that came to pass. And that's why I think this video is important, to jog the memory, and hopefully if they're watching, maybe they can go back over and just come up with a roadmap. Let us know what's happening with these features. If they're not happening, great, they're not happening. Just tell us. That would be a really good sign, and I hope they do something like this in their community stream in a few weeks. Now, the next two on my list are pretty contentious and have been spoken about at length, but when I broke the news that Primal Survival was delayed, in fact I had announced this months before the official announcement, but no one believed me. In fact, I got a really hard time from people in my comment section saying I didn't know what I was talking about, they were working on Primal Survival, and pretty much got a load of abuse. But I was right, they had delayed Primal Survival and they had cancelled it. They officially said it was on a permanent hiatus, so that doesn't technically mean cancelled, and hopefully one day we could see it. But I guess that's why it's in this video. It is something they have said is on a hiatus, but in truth, it has been cancelled. It was meant to be made by Instinct Games. They're the Egyptian developers that helped them make Ark Survival Evolved for Xbox One and pull it over. It was meant to be their baby to show what they could do and put something across all of the platforms, PC and PS4. However, Instinct Games have pretty much become defunct. If you look on their website and you try talking to any of the developers on that company, they're really hard to get hold of. They're pretty much non-existent. They haven't updated their website in a number of months, maybe even a year or so. And so it is definitely looking like we'll never see Primal Survival, the game where you're meant to be a dinosaur, where you're meant to roam around as a creature. But rip Primal Survival, I don't think we're ever going to see it. Surprisingly, one thing we will maybe see, well, maybe not surprisingly, is SOTF. Survival of the Fittest was a Battle Royale mod created by the Ark Wildcard devs themselves in their off time. It wasn't made by just some random modder, it was actually made by some of the development team, and they went ahead and pressed on making it a full game. They released it for free on Steam, and they tried their best to make it a e-sport, to get hype behind it. The problem with Survival of the Fittest was the games were too long, and the Battle Royale genre relies a lot on gunplay. They're the ones that are most popular, like Fortnite, like PUBG. Other games are pretty good and they come along like the Culling, SOS, but sometimes if they don't have enough gunplay in it, it doesn't seem to attract the same sort of attention. That's what I feel with Battle Royales at the moment. If it hasn't got guns in it, it's not really going to work. And you're thinking, well, Ark's got loads of guns. We've got ARs, we've got sniper rifles. Yes, we do, but the shooting mechanics in Ark are buggy and just not very good. One of the co-founders of Wildcard, who actually owns the publishing company that helped make and produce the game, Reverb, came out in an interview with PC Gamer a while ago. Now, I've covered all of this. If you watched all my Ark news videos, you'll know about lots of this stuff if you remember. But in it, he said that yes, with the popularity of Battle Royale as it is now, it would be stupid of them not to revisit Survival of the Fittest. And Survival of the Fittest could come back in some shape or form. Now, I don't think it's going to be called Survival of the Fittest. I think it will be called Ark Battle Royale. And I do believe Snail Games are currently working on a secret project. It also makes me think that Wildcard are helping with this project because they're so quiet at the moment. There is absolutely no news or information coming from Wildcard about what they're currently working on. Can it really just be the third final DLC? Does it take a team over 40 people working there, working just on DLC? I don't think it does. I think Wildcard have shown they've always been able to multitask and do other things. Not very well, because lots of that stuff comes out wrong and buggy, but they do like to multitask, they do like to work on different projects, and so there is hope that it could come. And with everyone getting in on the act with Call of Duty and Battlefield bringing out Battle Royale modes, it would be a bit silly if Ark didn't try and capitalise on something that they had a bit of an early foothold in. Okay, I'm going to start rattling off some of the other stuff that we've not seen. If you remember, as part of the sponsored mod program, we've had Ragnarok, we've had the Centre map, we've had Primitive Plus, all come to console as official mods. The developers did state they wanted to do this more and more, and at launch of the game, they said they were going to bring out 2 more free DLCs before Christmas. Well, at least 1 and hopefully 2, according to this interview, and as you can see, it's from July last year. What happened to them 2 free mods? We never got them. We never received them. We got the paid DLC, but this whole interview is talking about sponsored mods. It's not talking about DLC, it's talking about official DLCs, free DLCs. Now, unless there was some real massive communication problem between PC Gamer and the creative director, Jeremy Stieglitz, I really do think they were hopefully talking about the free mods, but we didn't get one of them. There was no word. We all assumed it would be Primitive Structures Plus, but Structures Plus never materialised, and we heard nothing about what they were actually working on. As a whole, the sponsored mod program has been very hit and miss. We have had some good stuff come. Obviously, Ragnarok was amazing, but Ragnarok's got its problems too, which we're going to be talking about. And there's lots of the sponsored mods that have been cancelled lately, so there's even less chance of some of these ones coming to console. Starting off with Ragnarok though, which is important, people moan about the fact that Ragnarok is very laggy and it just doesn't run very well. And the modders themselves have come out and said, yes, there are lots of issues with Ragnarok that they're currently working on. They are still working on the mod. They're not necessarily going to be putting in all their plans that they wanted to. They had visions of doing their own endgame sequence, their own unique boss fight. And I think Ragnarok's got some really unique stuff in it already. However, it just doesn't run very well. And that's what they're going to be focusing on. The developers now work for Wildcards, so the modders aren't just working on their own, they actually are working on the new Extinction map. That is their baby. They're going to be doing that. And so hopefully they will get the chance to finish off what they started with in terms of making the map stable. They've done that recently. A big Xbox update hopefully improved that a big deal, but there's lots of work to do to make sure that Ragnarok runs particularly well. Lots of issues with memory, lots of issues with lag, hence why it's called Lagnarok. In a way, Wildcards seem to have this habit of cherry picking people who do really good mods to come work for them. Primitive Plus creator got a job at Wildcards. The creator of the Centre map, Evil Mr. Franks, got a job at Wildcards. And now the Ragnarok devs are now all working for Wildcard. Not to mention the Structures Plus guy, he's now working for Wildcard. So you can see that they really try and encourage people to make these mods. And who knows, if you're good enough, maybe you can come and go and work for them. I think that's a really good attribute, and I can't stress how good it's been that Wildcard have put money and effort into mod support. No other company has put as much effort into supporting modders as Wildcard has. But sometimes that does still go wrong. The Steampunk mod has been in the sponsored mod program for a long time, but recently it was dropped. And like many other mods that are dropped, they're not often given any real reasoning about what's gone on. They're not given enough feedback about why their mod's been dropped or why they haven't been making enough progress. The people in the sponsored mod program get $4,000 a month to work on their mod. Now, it would be great if you could quit your job and just work on it full time, but many of the modders can't do that because there's no guarantee from Wildcard that they won't just cancel their mod like they do. So the developer of this mod is now wondering what to do. Is he going to be able to go back to work? Is he going to be able to carry on working on the mod as quickly as he was? Probably not, no. I don't even know if he actually quit his full-time job, I'm not too sure. But this has happened in the past, the creator of the Rehema map as well. They were just told they're being dropped from the program, no real warning and no real feedback about what had gone wrong. Maybe their output hadn't been enough. Maybe they just needed a bit more guidance, maybe a bit more support, and they could have really truly made some classic great mods. But without any real decent feedback, Wildcard kind of just left them high and dry, which is directly against how they build stuff up and reward people for making great mods by giving them lots of money initially. So hopefully that will change. They've got a brand new mod manager now that's in charge of it, and they're doing lots of competition to find the new mod makers, and it will prolong the life of the game. But we need this stuff on console. We need some sort of official mod to come to Xbox One or PS4. It's been way too long, and it was promised in that interview you saw, not in early access, it would come to the main game. Recently I've been showing you guys stuff that's been going on with the mobile world of Ark Survival Evolved. How they're implementing really cool features like quests, or they call them like events, where you just go and do stuff where you can, you know, kill 20 dinosaurs and you get a little achievement pop up. Alongside that, I think it would be a great idea to revitalise or reintroduce Boss Wars. Now, Boss Wars was on the patch notes for time and time again. And when I looked into it and when I spoke about it with some of the devs, the Boss War idea was that creatures, mini creatures like dragons and Megapithecus would drop on the map. Everyone would have a chance to go and defeat it, and if whoever defeated it, you would gain control of that creature for a set amount of time. It was meant to give the upper hand to small tribes. Maybe there were mega tribes on the server that overruled everything, but if you got a chance to defeat that small creature, you could then utilise it against the big mega tribes. It got dropped just before early access. They took it away from the patch notes and we never saw it again. It definitely would liven up servers, but I'd also think it'd be really useful for PvE and single player. After you've tamed a bunch of dinosaurs, there's not really a lot to do in PvE or in single player. You'd kind of run out of stuff. Other than just running around and getting attacked by every dinosaur going, what is there to do? So having something like Boss Wars, where occasionally things would drop in and you'd have to go and fight them, and it'd give you just more impetus, it would make the game a bit more interesting, rather than just gearing up just for free boss fights that you're going to need just Rexes for. There are a bunch of other stuff that was mentioned, and I don't want to rag on it and go through every nitpicking thing, because like I said, a lot of that was through early access, so you can't always guarantee what they do in early access is going to be what's coming to the game. But as I've stated, and hopefully I've shown you guys, a lot of this stuff has been said out of early access, and a lot of this stuff has been said more than just one answer. It's been posted officially, it's been put into official reviews or interviews with people, and I really think that Wildcard need to do something. I just want them to let us know what's going on. Put a roadmap out there, tell us what they're working on, not just the DLC, tell us how they view the future of Ark Survival Evolved. If it has a future, if it doesn't, that's okay, we'll have to handle that and we'll have to deal with it. But the fact they just keep leaving things unsaid makes the community a little bit bitter, and that's why there is a lot of negativity. Join the discussion down below. Let me know in the comment section anything I might have missed. Or are you happy with what they've done? Are you thinking it's just sour grapes and people that just want the world? Do you think as much content has been put into Ark as possibly can, and there's no real hope in trying to look for more brand new stuff? Maybe just focus on other games until a new sequel comes out. Let me know in the comment section. I am Jade Plays Games. For more in-depth Ark news, guides, tutorials and opinion, make sure you've got notifications turned on, and I'll see you ratbags for another in-depth Ark news show very soon. Bye bye.